We're in Ruth chapter 1, and on Friday, we talked about what I believe is the most important verse, at least as it relates to Ruth herself. That is Ruth chapter 1 and verse 16, where Ruth basically said, Naomi, I'm going with you. You can't talk me out of it. And I think the motivator for Ruth was in the statement that she made when she said that, Naomi, your God will be my God. And I love that. Ruth chose Jehovah God because of Naomi. Naomi's care, her influence, all those many years. And so I don't know why we're having all of a sudden a truck fest going on here, but I thought I chose the quietest spot in this entire area, but apparently I made a mistake. Anyway, Ruth has now made it clear to Naomi that I'm going with you. So Naomi doesn't argue. She just accepts this. So Naomi and Ruth now make their journey from Moab. Remember, that's on the other side, the east side of the Dead Sea. And they're making their way all the way back to Bethlehem. So although it's not a terribly long journey, it's a journey that two women are making. So there's some danger involved, and there's certainly a challenge involved. And the Bible says in verse number 18, when Naomi saw that she, Ruth, was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she left speaking unto her. In other words, she just decided, I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. I know you've made up your mind, and so I'm just going to accept this. Little did Naomi realize that that acceptance of Ruth's desire to go was really the beginning of a process by which God was reclaiming Naomi, reclaiming her faith, reclaiming her spirit, reclaiming her joy. And we will see all of that. It's going to get worse before it gets better. But wow, the book of Ruth is a story of the dynamic change that takes place in Naomi as she realizes that our great providential God is always at work for our good and for his glory. Look at verse number 19. So they too went until they came to Bethlehem. And that's where they left 10 years before. Elimelech, Naomi, Mahlon, and Chilion. They left, and remember, the reason they left was because they felt that Bethlehem had nothing to offer them. They felt that they knew better than God. They could be the exception to the rule. They could go to Moab and sojourn. They would come back having been bettered for making this compromising choice. But we are never bettered in our life for having made compromising choices. I know in the moment it seems as if human reasoning can win the day. In the moment it seemed as if they had the best of both worlds. They were going to go back and serve God, but they were also going to enjoy the groceries in Moab. But it didn't work, did it? And our choices outside of the will of God never work. They never work. They always accrue to our own sorrow. And so the Bible says they're coming back to Bethlehem here, Naomi and Ruth, and it came to pass when they were come to Bethlehem that all the city was moved about them, and they said, is this Naomi? Now, obviously, I think they knew it was she. They knew that physically this was Naomi, but so much had she changed in attitude, no doubt even in appearance. You know, depression can age us. Stress can cause us to, everything about us can change. Our posture, our countenance, everything. And so the Bible says that when Naomi and Ruth returned to Bethlehem, the entire city was moved. It was unusual, obviously, for anyone to move to Bethlehem. People were people of their own area, so there might have been some of that. Bethlehem was not a large place, so people would know when people would come from a foreign place. They would be aware of that. But I think beyond that, Naomi and Elimelech and her kids were a staple part of that society, and they had left. And there was no communication during these years of sojourning. There was nothing that they weren't receiving updates. So now that they came back, remember now, the city of Bethlehem is enjoying prosperity. The city of Bethlehem is now not having any issues with famine. The city of Bethlehem is experiencing the favor of God. And Naomi is coming back, and what a contrast. These people that are joyful, these people that have trusted God, these people that have allowed the struggle and the famine to do its work in their lives, and they're back where they need to be. And now in stark contrast to that, you have Naomi. Now Ruth is a separate story. They don't know her yet, but they have Naomi. And the question is this Naomi? You know, sin can turn us into different people. The consequences of sin can be so profoundly negative in our lives that the people that we know and love and interact with can look at us and say, "Man, that's not even you. That doesn't even look like you. What happened to you?" A sin will take you farther than you want to go. It'll keep you longer than you want to stay. It'll cost you more than you want to pay. I've heard that for years, and it's so true. It was true in Naomi's life. And watch what Naomi says in verse number 19, or verse 20. And she said unto them, "Call me not Naomi." Now, how odd. How odd that they would recognize her for who she is. Isn't this Naomi? And she would say, "Don't call me that. I no longer identify as Naomi." Now, you know this. Naomi means pleasant. And no doubt Naomi had lived up to her namesake. No doubt Naomi had been a very pleasant person in Bethlehem. And I believe that even for most of the years of the sojourn, Naomi had been a pleasant person. And the reason I believe that is because both Orpah and Ruth desired to be with her. They desired to be under her care and influence. And Ruth chose her God. So there must have been something about the spirit, attitude, and testimony of Naomi that was attractive. But all of that has come to a screeching halt. And now Naomi is no longer behaving according to her namesake of pleasantness, but now Naomi is just bitter. And tomorrow, you might want to invite a friend. You might want to share this tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm going to talk to you about bitterness. And we're going to look at Naomi as a case study of bitterness. Where does bitterness come from? How does bitterness affect other people? Now, how did God ultimately cure bitterness in Naomi's life? And we'll talk about that even beyond tomorrow, the solution of it. So I do hope you'll come back.